Hey guys, Jim Skelton here once again with the 5-Minute Watch Review. Right now we're going to jump into some features and benefits and details of some of our favorite watches. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Zelos watch's Eagle E-1A. Now the designations for the three different models they make, E-1A, the one that I have here, means that it's in stainless steel with the black DLC, and the lume that's being used is Super Luminova BGW9. The other two variations, they have another one that's done in the black DLC steel, and they're using a different lume in there. I believe it's C1 with a dye added so that it changes the color a little bit. It's almost like a gray Super Luminova. And then the third one is a solid bronze variation. So of those three models, this was the one that really kind of piqued my interest. This watch is kind of different than what I would normally wear just because of its size. This is a 42 millimeter watch, which in today's terms in the US, 42 millimeters is really, really small. If you go back 15 years ago, 42 millimeters was a pretty standard size for men in sport watches. Then we started seeing them bump up to 44 and 45, and then, it's gone nuts from there. I mean, you could be buying U-boats that are almost 60 millimeters in size. So looking at a watch that's, only 42 millimeters is kind of shocking these days. But it plays off a little bit bigger thanks to its thickness. And the thickness is required for all the things that are being done to create the unique nature of this watch. So you're looking at a watch that's 16 millimeters in thickness, and a lot of people got kind of scared of that when they read it, feeling that it was going to be too tall on the wrist. I honestly don't think so. It really doesn't play as tall as it really is. And 16 honestly isn't all that much. What you've got going on here is a multi-piece case. So you have your central case down here where they've done a lot of milling out of that material to replicate the look of a jet's turbine engine. So that's a big showpiece for this watch. But for me, what makes it special is going to be the cradle that holds that central case. The cradle comes down with very, very sharply curved, or angled, I should say, lugs. And that's what allows this to fit comfortably even on a smaller wrist. You notice how sharp that angle goes down. They're fully skeletonized. You can see all the way through them, all the way around it. And the watch is basically being sandwiched together with that custom-made case back. Now, that turbine that you're seeing there is not part of the movement. The movement is still behind that. This is basically a back plate that's sitting right behind the glass on the exhibition back. They spent a lot of money to put little details like this in here, and I hope everybody appreciates that, because while it's not a cheap watch, it's not really overly expensive for what you're getting. Let's break down what you're getting first, because you're paying $760 for this watch. And a lot of people might go, oh, that's a bit more than I want to spend from a brand I'm not really familiar with. Well, that's really what my videos are all about. That's what this channel is all about. Hopefully I can expose you to brands that you didn't previously know about and help you justify any expense to buying one if you're trying to make that decision. First off, you've got 316L stainless steel. That's not a wild leap. Most everybody is doing that. But the finish work on here, this is not a black ionic plating. Black IP is a fairly inexpensive way to put color on a case. Whether you want to do gold or you want to do gunmetal, black, that's the way most companies do it. When you get into higher end watches, you get into DLC. The first true real DLC watch I ever owned was a Parallel turbine. And they charged a lot of money if you wanted the DLC version over the standard version, because it is an expensive process that there aren't a lot of factories that work with it. The reason why you want DLC is because it's much more scratch resistant than the bare steel. Now, this isn't like a ceramic watch where you can knock it around, beat it around, and, you know, carve into it and not worry about it, but it is more scratch resistant than buying a standard naked steel watch or having any kind of standard plating on top of a steel watch. So it adds a little layer of protection. So it's going to be black for as long as humanly possible. You don't really have to worry about wearing this watch for a couple of years and going, oh man, I've got so many bare areas of steel sticking out. This looks like shit. Now I've got to go have it refinished. DLC is really, really strong, and that's what they're using. The other part of this is they're doing a sandwich style dial. Again, not altogether uncommon on a decent watch, but it is more costly to do it that way. So you've got the top layer here, really nicely done, multiple finishes on that black. And you've got the, as I mentioned before, the BGW9 Super Luminova poking through all the cutouts. BGW9, of course, in the hands. We'll go ahead and push in the crown and screw it down and get that beautiful, beautiful movement going. Very clean dial, too. They've just got their simplified logo here, and then it says the word automatic at the bottom. And that's really it. Everything else is about time telling. I really, really like that. Especially because it is somewhat of a military-inspired design. You don't want a lot of ridiculous clutter on the dial. Very clean. They held themselves back very, very well. Again, the expense of having that turbine custom cut and fitted inside the case. Your top crystal is going to be a double curved, very, very thick sapphire crystal that can withstand 200 meters of pressure. It is a 200 meter water pressure tested watch. The straps on here are really nice, and I say straps because you get more than one. Here you've got a leather strap that's topped off with canvas. I've never really been into this before, but I really do appreciate this look when I'm dressed down. I've worn this watch probably 7 or 8 times in the past couple of weeks. I have had it longer because A, I wanted to wear it a few times, and B, I caught the flu and I wasn't able to make a video for a couple of weeks. So I've had plenty of opportunities to wear this. You can see how it's, you know, obviously curved around from my wrist. You can see where I've buckled it right here. It's a really nice watch to wear, and it's gotten a surprising amount of attention. I hang out with a lot of watch people, and generally, unless it's something super special and really jumps out at you, they don't really notice it. And this one got a lot of attention, and they did want me to take it off, and they wanted to get a good look at the overall construction and how this was built. And everybody was impressed. And they always ask, how much was it? Well, $760. So we've justified the fact that they're using a much more expensive plating process. They're using the sapphire crystal, they're using Super Luminova, they're using a sandwich style dial, they've got the custom turbine, really nice straps. I'll show you the other one in a minute. But the other part is, inside is the Miyota 9015. Now, I have a lot of experience with the 9015 movement. I love this movement. It was made primarily to compete with the Swiss ETA 2892. Not comparing with the 2824, and there's a big difference. The 2892 is an up model from ETA. It's a more expensive model than the 2824. It's more refined, it's got better components, it's slimmer, and it's got better finishing. This movement was made by Miyota to compete with that up-level movement. Even though you can't see it, the finishing's very nice on it, the components are very well done, and they've proven themselves since they released this about 6-7 years ago now to be an extraordinarily accurate and really reliable movement. And they're not cheap. As a matter of fact, they have raised the prices recently quite significantly, because a lot of companies that want to use a Swiss movement can't get their hands on them, or like in my case when I launched my brand, I wanted to put a Swiss set of 2824 in the hyperdive. Problem was, I knew in a few years I wasn't going to be able to get parts if I had to do any repairs. So I opted for the Miyota 9015 because it is that good of a movement. And most people will tell you it'll run within COSC specs out of the box. And that's really, really impressive. Speaking of impressive, let's talk about the packaging. You're going to get a very, very large aluminum box. Get this flipped open. And inside will be, obviously your watch will be over here. Here's your warranty card. It's a nice CNC cut piece of aluminum. Nice etching of what your watch looks like. And then on the back would be the information that you would fill out for the warranty. Also inside is going to be your additional strap. I haven't changed out the strap on this yet, only because I'm really kind of enjoying the uniqueness of that canvas strap. But it's a really nice, very, very dark brown. It almost looks black. Very dark brown, very thick leather. I'm sure it's going to be wonderfully comfortable. I'm probably going to try that on the next week or two just to see how it feels. But overall, what you've got here is a really... Oh, before I get to that. Before I get to that. I forgot to show you the buckle. Oh, yeah. They really left no stone unturned here. They really put a lot of thought into every component of this watch. You don't need to do shit like that. You could put a standard buckle on here and make 99.99% of all watch buyers happy. But it's the little things like that that make you go, huh, well, they really put a good amount of thought into this watch. It's a robust watch. It's very solidly built. Like I said, I've worn it for a few days. I have no marks in that DLC anywhere whatsoever. Now, the only thing that may be off-putting to some folks is going to be the size. Number one, it may be small for some people. But on the other hand, the people that appreciate a smaller watch may feel that it's a bit too tall. And I really don't want you to worry about that too much because, as you see here, it wears very, very well. Now, here's something I don't ever do, but I wanted to give a shout out if I could. I noticed since I started following Zelos on Instagram, and I already follow the Watch Report on Instagram, and you should too, that the Watch Report also got one of these to review. And I'm sure they're going to have a slightly different take on things than I do. So definitely go over to thewatchreport.com, check out the written review, and check out their video review as well. I don't know who will be reviewing it. It could be Donald Evans. It could be somebody else. But I just want to make sure that people knew that this is starting to get in a lot more people's hands. And I believe this brand is going to take off in a big, big way, especially if they follow up the Eagle with something equally as impressive. And I would beg them, please, maybe go to a 44 or 45 millimeter. Just try it. Just see what happens. But yeah, so you're going to see a few reviews on this watch. I have to give it 100% thumbs up. I think it's an incredibly built watch, a lot of detail, and it checks off all the boxes for me. It's got great lume, great water resistance, sapphire crystal, AR coating, super luminova, all the things that I would want. And while, like I said before, I don't typically wear a watch of this size, I've really been enjoying wearing it. So maybe it's that transitional watch that's going to get you to go back down to more human-sized watches. Watches don't need to be 48, 52, 55 millimeters. Believe me, I've sold hundreds of thousands of them. And I was stuck in that rut for a long time because that's what I was surrounded by in the, in the atmosphere that I was in. And once I got away from that, I got to appreciate smaller watches again. Still never went quite this small again, but I got to appreciate that 44 and 45 millimeter for what it was. You know, I've got a fairly large wrist at 7.5 inches, but it's not a gargantuan wrist. And I look back at pictures of myself wearing these giant, oversized watches and go, I did look a little bit silly. Now I see how other people viewed me. So I have a newfound appreciation for smaller sizes. If I had reviewed this watch 5 years ago, I would have had a hard time liking it. Now I'm much more well-rounded in my collection. I appreciate a lot of different things, and I hope you guys do as well, because this is a watch you should not overlook just because it's 42 millimeters. As I said, it plays a little bit larger, and I think you're going to get an appreciation for all of the details that this watch has. Now, before we go, we need to do the all-important luminescent shot. So give me 1 second here as I reach down for my black light and get this bad boy charged up. Alright, black light is out. We are ready to rock it, and it's already trying to glow like crazy. And I can speak from experience. I've worn this watch at night. It is a nice display of lume, I can tell you that right now. Good thick application. Alright, let's get the light shut off and hung back up. And let's see what happens. Bingo, there you go. And out of all the various colors of Super Luminova, I tend to like BGW9 the best. It's white during the daytime or in the light, and then it glows a really nice, rich blue. There's nothing wrong with C3 and C1. You know, green is great, but there's something about blue that just feels a little different and a little bit more special. So there you go, guys. There is the Lume. Kick the lights back on, and we're going to get out of here for now. Again, if you can find one of these, grab it. You can buy direct off the Zelos website, and I'm sure by now they're probably picking up a few dealers. So Google it, search it. I always tell you to find the best price. Don't just buy from the first place you see it at. And if you can find it at an even lower price, that means the value is going to be even greater to you. But if you have to spend the $760, do it with confidence. I think the quality is there, and nobody should have any complaints whatsoever.
I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please do subscribe. That way you'll get notified of all of our future uploads.